Have you ever wondered why some people seem to break free and rise while others remain shackled to the same pain year after year? It's because many are secretly imprisoned, not by walls, but by memories. Today I want you to imagine how different your life would be if you no longer carried the weight of your past. What if you could finally lay down the burden of yesterday and step boldly into your purpose? Because here's the truth. You will never fully become who you were born to be while you're still rehearsing who you used to be. Stay with me until the end of this message, because I'm going to show you exactly how to release what has held you back and how embracing your purpose will unlock a freedom and fulfillment you've never known. Too often, we mistake our history for our identity. We think the failures, betrayals, or disappointments of yesterday are proof that we are unworthy today. But your past was a chapter, never the entire story. If you're still blaming yourself or others for what happened back then, you're giving power to moments that can no longer be changed. Every time you replay that pain in your mind, you relive the wound. Every time you feed that regret, you starve your purpose. Letting go is not about pretending nothing happened. It's about deciding that nothing in your past has the authority to define your worth. When you release your attachment to who you were, you create space for who you are becoming. Purpose is a powerful force. It is the reason you were created, the unique contribution only you can give. But purpose cannot coexist with the poison of resentment or self-condemnation. You must choose. Will you protect your past, or will you pursue your purpose? Purpose is your internal compass, the invisible force that guides your thoughts, decisions, and actions. It is what gives your life coherence when everything around you feels chaotic. Without purpose, even your greatest efforts can feel hollow, like you are running in circles but never arriving anywhere that matters. You might wake up early, fill your calendar, and check off your to-do list, yet still fall asleep with the nagging sense that you are missing something essential. That missing piece is purpose. The deeper reason that explains why you are here and what your existence is meant to accomplish. When you lack purpose, you are easily influenced by whatever seems urgent or appealing in the moment. You jump from one thing to the next, convinced that maybe the next achievement, the next relationship, the next milestone will finally make you feel whole, but it never does. Activity becomes a substitute for meaning, and eventually you start to feel exhausted and disillusioned. It is not because you are lazy or incapable. It is because motion without direction drains the soul. Purpose, on the other hand, transforms everything. It doesn't always change your circumstances right away, but it changes the way you see them. When you know your purpose, you stop measuring your worth by the opinions of people who don't understand your calling. You stop trying to be everything to everyone and start becoming exactly who you were created to be. Even in the middle of challenges or setbacks, you can find strength because you have an unshakable reason to persevere. You are no longer living by accident. You are living by assignment. Think of a compass. No matter how many times you spin it, it will always realign itself and point you north. That is what purpose does for your life. It is the constant orientation point that helps you recalibrate every time you feel lost. You might take detours, you might get discouraged, but you will never be completely adrift because you have something pulling you forward. Purpose reminds you that your story is bigger than your current struggle and that your destiny is not defined by your past mistakes. Purpose also clarifies your choices. When you know what you are here to do, you can say no to distractions without guilt. You can resist the temptation to imitate others because you understand that comparison is the fastest way to lose your way. You realize that your journey will look different, and that is exactly how it is supposed to be. Purpose gives you the courage to be selective with your time, your energy, and your relationships. It empowers you to invest in what aligns with your mission and to release what does not. Without purpose, it is easy to let your circumstances dictate your identity. If things are going well, you feel valuable. If you face obstacles, you question your worth. But when your life is anchored in purpose, you develop resilience that no setback can take away. You understand that failure is not final because it is just feedback guiding you back to your true path. Purpose becomes the filter through which you interpret every experience, extracting wisdom from pain and hope from disappointment. More than anything, purpose is the source of authentic fulfillment. It is the quiet assurance that your existence matters, that your life is contributing something unique to the world. It doesn't require applause or recognition, because the satisfaction comes from within. You feel it in the calm conviction that you are doing what you were born to do, and no external achievement can replace that. Purpose is not optional if you want to live fully alive. It is the blueprint that shapes your days, the compass that directs your steps, and the fuel that keeps your spirit strong. When you embrace it, you unlock the extraordinary potential that has been waiting inside you all along. The past can become a burden so heavy that it crushes your confidence, limits your imagination, and convinces you that nothing new is possible. Many people are carrying invisible weights from their history, replaying the same memories, reliving the same mistakes, and recycling the same regrets. They wake up every day physically present in the moment, but mentally stuck somewhere behind them. They're stuck somewhere behind them. This is the hidden cost of refusing to let go. You forfeit your future while clinging to what no longer serves you. Sometimes the past holds you captive because of what was done to you: betrayal, rejection, humiliation. Other times, it is your own choices that haunt you. Things you did, words you spoke, opportunities you wasted. It does not matter whether the wounds were inflicted by someone else or were self-inflicted. The result is the same: a constant drag on your spirit, like trying to run a race with chains around your ankles. You cannot step into your purpose if you are still rehearsing your old pain. The past is powerful because it shapes your beliefs about who you are and what you deserve. If you have experienced enough disappointment, you start to expect it. If you have been ignored or devalued, you start to believe you are unworthy of love or success. These beliefs are dangerous because they become self-fulfilling. You act small because you feel small. You stop trying because you assume you will fail. You settle for less because you doubt you can have more. Over time, you stop imagining any reality beyond what you have already known. This is how your past silently dictates your future, unless you make the decision to break free. You cannot change what happened to you, but you can change the meaning you attach to it. You can decide that your past will be your teacher, not your prison. You can choose to extract wisdom instead of shame, lessons instead of bitterness. Every experience you have survived contains something you can learn, something that can strengthen you. The problem is that most people never pause long enough to find the lesson because they are too busy replaying the hurt. They carry resentment like a trophy, not realizing that it only keeps them chained to a story they no longer want to live. Letting go does not mean you pretend nothing happened. It means you acknowledge it fully, feel it honestly, and then refuse to let it define you any longer. It is an act of courage to release what has been familiar, even when that familiarity is painful. But until you do, you cannot embrace the new possibilities waiting for you. The space in your mind and heart that is occupied by old narratives is the same space you need to cultivate vision, hope, and creativity. An act of courage is the same space you need to cultivate vision, hope, and creativity. You cannot build a life of purpose on top of foundations that are rotting with resentment. Sometimes the most dangerous part of holding on to the past is that it feels safe. Even suffering can feel predictable, and predictability can masquerade as comfort. You may tell yourself it is better to cling to what you know than to risk being hurt again, but this is an illusion. Refusing to let go of the past does not protect you. It only guarantees you will keep reliving it. Freedom begins the moment you decide that the past has taken enough from you. You do not owe your history any more of your joy. your peace, or your potential. You can honor where you have been without allowing it to become the ceiling of where you can go. Your story is not over. What happened before does not get to have the final word on who you become. When you release the weight of your past, you reclaim your power to create a future that reflects the truth of who you are, not just the pain of what you have endured. There is a subtle danger in familiarity that most people never recognize. When something is familiar, it feels safe, predictable, and comfortable, even when it is limiting or destructive. You can become so accustomed to your past patterns that you confuse them with your identity. You start to believe that who you were is the same as who you are destined to be. This illusion of familiarity is one of the biggest reasons people remain stuck in cycles they claim they want to escape. They don't realize how often they trade growth for comfort. Sometimes you hold on to an old way of thinking or behaving simply because it feels easier than confronting the discomfort of change. The habits you develop to survive pain can become the very habits that sabotage your progress. For example, you might avoid new opportunities because rejection was part of your past. You might stay in unfulfilling relationships because you fear loneliness more than dissatisfaction. You might sabotage your own success because deep down you expect everything to fall apart just as it did before. Even your pain can become familiar, and there is a strange security in what you already know, even if it has never brought you joy. This is the hidden cost of clinging to familiarity. You forfeit your chance to grow into a fuller expression of yourself. The mind loves routine because it requires less energy to repeat what is familiar than to venture into the unknown. But the unknown is precisely where transformation lives. Every significant breakthrough begins with a moment of uncertainty, a moment when you have to release what you have outgrown without yet seeing what will replace it. If you are unwilling to surrender the comfort of the known, you will never taste the possibilities of what could be. Consider how many people remain attached to old labels they accepted in childhood. Maybe someone called them inadequate, unworthy, or unlovable. Over time, those labels started to feel true simply because they were repeated often enough. You get so used to hearing certain words in your head that you mistake them for your own thoughts. But familiarity does not equal truth. Just because a belief feels natural does not mean it is accurate. Often, it only means you have rehearsed it for so long that it has become automatic. Familiarity also affects the way you see your circumstances. You can become so accustomed to disappointment that you stop expecting anything better. You can get so used to scarcity that you no longer believe abundance is even possible for you. You can adapt to dysfunction so completely that healthy environments feel uncomfortable. This is why real change often feels threatening. It demands that you question everything you have normalized. It asks you to challenge the narratives that once kept you safe, but now keep you small. The illusion of familiarity can even infect your dreams. You may desire something more peace, more purpose, more fulfillment, but you shrink your expectations to match what you have already known. You edit your hopes to avoid the risk of disappointment. You convince yourself that wanting more is unrealistic or selfish. But this is just another way that familiarity disguises itself as wisdom. True wisdom requires the courage to acknowledge when something is no longer serving you, and the faith to step into the unknown, even if your knees are shaking. Breaking free from the illusion of familiarity does not happen by accident. It takes deliberate awareness to see where you are stuck and a conscious decision to disrupt the patterns you have been rehearsing. It means reminding yourself daily that comfort is not the same as purpose, and that predictability is not the same as peace. When you dare to let go of what is familiar, you open yourself to the possibility of becoming who you were always meant to be, not just who you learned to be. And in that space beyond the familiar, you discover the life that has been waiting for you all along. Healing is often misunderstood. People think it means forgetting what happened, erasing the memories, or pretending the pain never existed. But real healing is not about wiping your history clean. It is about changing your relationship with it. You will never be able to delete your past, nor should you try. Every experience you have lived through has shaped you. The goal is not to deny it, but to reclaim power over how it defines you. Healing happens when you can remember what happened without feeling owned by it anymore. Some wounds leave deep marks on your heart. You may remember the betrayal, the loss, the humiliation, or the failure in vivid detail. You might still feel a twinge of sadness or anger when those memories surface. That does not mean you haven't healed. It means you are human. The difference is that over time, the pain no longer controls your present choices. It no longer dictates what you believe about yourself or what you expect from life. You can look back without losing yourself in the past all over again. That is what freedom looks like. Not the absence of memory, but the release of its power to imprison you. Healing requires honesty. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. Many people avoid confronting their past because it feels too overwhelming. They bury their feelings, minimize their experiences, or distract themselves with constant busyness. But denial does not heal anything. It only allows the wound to fester beneath the surface. True healing begins the moment you decide to face what hurt you, to name it, feel it, and understand it. This process is not comfortable, but it is necessary. When you shine light on what you used to hide, you take away its power to secretly control you. This process is not easy. First and most precious of all, you may let healing is also an act of self-compassion. It is choosing to stop blaming yourself for things you could not control or did not know better at the time. It is recognizing that you were doing the best you could with the awareness and resources you had. As you grow, you will see past situations differently. You will gain new understanding and wisdom that helps you release old shame. You will learn to forgive yourself, not because you condone every decision you made, but because you finally accept your own humanity. Some people think healing means they must make peace with everyone who ever hurt them, but that is not always true. Reconciliation requires both people to show up with humility and responsibility. Healing, however, belongs to you alone. It does not require permission from those who wronged you. It does not require them to apologize or change. It is the private decision to free yourself from the chains of resentment so you can move forward in peace. You can choose to let go without inviting those people back into your life. You will know you are healing when you stop needing to retell the story of your pain to feel validated. You will know you are healing when you can think about the past and feel gratitude for the lessons more than bitterness for the loss. You will know you are healing when you can see how even your darkest seasons prepared you with wisdom, strength, and empathy. Healing doesn't mean the past stops mattering. It means it stops defining your worth or limiting your future. The process of healing is not linear. Some days you will feel strong and clear. Other days, an old memory may catch you by surprise and bring up emotions you thought were long gone. This is normal. It does not mean you have failed. It means you are still in the process of releasing layer by layer. Healing is not a destination. It is a continual unfolding of greater freedom and understanding. When you choose to heal, you choose to honor yourself. You choose to stand in the truth that you are not what happened to you. You are who you decide to become in spite of it. Purpose is not simply an inspiring idea or a vague hope you entertain on days when you feel motivated. Purpose is a guiding force, a compass that keeps you anchored when life feels uncertain and overwhelming. When you know why you are here and what you are meant to contribute, you gain clarity that no circumstance can take away from you. Purpose gives your experiences meaning, even the painful ones. Instead of seeing hardship as pointless suffering, you begin to see it as preparation, shaping you into the person capable of fulfilling what you were created to do. Many people drift through life reacting to whatever comes their way, moving from one distraction to another without ever pausing to ask, what is the bigger reason behind all this? When you don't have a clear sense of purpose, it's easy to become a prisoner of the past or a slave to the opinions of others. You look for validation in temporary things. You try to fill the emptiness with achievements, possessions, or approval, but no amount of external success can satisfy the hunger for real significance. Purpose is the only thing strong enough to satisfy that longing because it connects you to something greater than yourself. Your purpose is not necessarily the same as your job title or a single role you play. It is the deeper intention behind how you show up in the world. It is the unique way your strengths, experiences, and values come together to serve others. When you live aligned with that intention, you feel a sense of peace that no setback can fully disrupt. Even when doors close, even when seasons change, purpose remains steady. It becomes the light you can return to when everything else feels dark. One of the most powerful effects of purpose is that it helps you let go of what no longer fits. When you are clear about who you are becoming, you are less likely to cling to relationships, habits, or environments that keep you small. You stop tolerating anything that drains your energy or distorts your vision. You become willing to release what is comfortable so you can grow into what is necessary. Purpose teaches you to trust the process, to believe that every ending is an invitation to a new beginning. Living with purpose does not mean you will never feel afraid or uncertain. It simply means you have decided that fear will not be your master. You have chosen to let purpose, not your past, not your pain, not your doubts, be the loudest voice in your life. And when you commit to that path, you discover an inner strength and resilience you never knew you possessed. You realize you were not born to merely exist. You were born to make a difference, to bring something irreplaceable into the world. That conviction becomes the foundation on which you build a life that is not only successful, but significant. One of the heaviest burdens you can carry is the weight of guilt and regret. These emotions have a way of convincing you that you are permanently unworthy, that you can never rise above your mistakes. They whisper to you that because you failed, you no longer deserve to hope for something better. But guilt and regret are only meant to be temporary teachers, not lifelong companions. Their purpose is to help you recognize what you need to change or heal, not to imprison you in self-condemnation. If you never learn to release them, they will quietly drain your energy, cloud your vision, and keep you stuck in cycles you long to escape. Everyone has made decisions they wish they could undo. You may have chosen the wrong path, hurt someone you cared about, or ignored your own intuition. But you must remember that you were not as wise then as you are now. You acted with the understanding and emotional capacity you had at that time. This doesn't excuse every action, but it does explain why you can choose to have compassion for the version of you who didn't know any better. Growth requires you to look at your past self with honesty and kindness, not endless judgment. Regret can sometimes disguise itself as a form of responsibility, as if punishing yourself over and over is proof that you care. But carrying guilt indefinitely doesn't heal what happened. It only ensures you keep reliving it. At some point, you have to decide that you have learned the lesson and will not allow the memory to keep defining your worth. You cannot change what has already been lived, but you can change what you build from here. You can choose to use the pain as fuel for wiser, more compassionate choices in the future. Releasing guilt also requires you to stop measuring your life by the standards or expectations of people who never understood your journey. Sometimes, regret comes from comparing yourself to an unrealistic image of who you think you should have been. But perfection is not the point of life. Growth is. Transformation is. If you can look back and see how far you have come, then your mistakes have already served their purpose. Letting go of regret is not pretending the past didn't happen. It is acknowledging it fully, owning your part, and then deciding that you deserve to be free. You deserve to move forward without dragging old shame into every new season. When you release guilt, you create space in your heart to receive joy, purpose, and connection again. You give yourself permission to evolve, to hope, and to trust that your future is not condemned to repeat your past. This is the gift of forgiveness, not only for others, but for yourself. And your life is not shaped only by the big dramatic moments you remember most vividly. It is shaped far more by the small decisions you make each day, often without realizing their true impact. The power of daily choices is one of the most underestimated forces in personal transformation. Every single day, you are given countless opportunities to align yourself with your purpose or drift further away from it. You decide whether you will stay committed to your growth or surrender to old habits. These decisions might seem trivial in the moment. Whether you get up early to invest in yourself, whether you speak with kindness or impatience, whether you take responsibility or make excuses. But over time, they carve the direction of your life. When you look at someone whose life inspires you, it is easy to believe they simply got lucky or were born with advantages you don't have. But if you could see behind the scenes, you would find that their success was built on the foundation of consistent daily discipline. They chose to do what needed to be done, even when it was uncomfortable or inconvenient. They understood that greatness is not the product of occasional bursts of effort, but of steady, faithful commitment to small actions repeated over and over. You cannot control everything that happens to you. Life will bring unexpected challenges, losses, and delays, but you always have control over the choices you make in response. That is where your true power lies. You can choose to respond with faith instead of fear, with discipline instead of distraction, with forgiveness instead of bitterness. Every day you have a chance to write a new line in the story of who you are becoming. Sometimes we wait for a perfect moment to make a change, telling ourselves that someday we will finally feel ready. But there is no ideal time to begin living in alignment with your values. The only moment you ever have is this one. When you decide to take responsibility for the small choices in front of you right now, you reclaim your power. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start recognizing that you are the author of your future. Daily choices might not look impressive to anyone else. No one applauds you for choosing to read instead of scrolling through your phone, or for taking a walk when you feel overwhelmed. But these small acts of discipline add up. They build resilience, clarity, and self-respect. Over time, they create the life you once thought was out of reach. The power of daily choices is that they allow you to start fresh every single morning. No matter what happened yesterday, you can decide today to move one step closer to your purpose. And when you string enough of those steps together, you will look back in awe at how far you have come. Not because of one big moment, but because of the quiet power of showing up again and again. There comes a point when you must recognize that the season you have been living in has come to an end. Just as winter eventually surrenders to spring, your life is always moving through cycles of letting go and renewal. A new season of growth is not something that appears automatically, because time passes. It begins when you decide to open your heart to change. Many people stay stuck in the same patterns year after year, not because they lack opportunity, but because they are afraid to release what feels familiar. Even if the past has been painful, it can still feel safer than stepping into the unknown. But growth never happens in the comfort zone. It happens when you are willing to plant new seeds, even when you cannot yet see how or when they will blossom. A new season of growth requires faith in the unseen potential within you. It asks you to believe that there is more to your story than what you have already lived. You may have been defined by past disappointments or failures, but they do not have to be the final word on who you can become. Growth starts with the courage to envision a future different from your past. It means giving yourself permission to evolve without apology. It means refusing to let the old labels and limitations dictate the possibilities ahead. This season will require you to make choices that feel uncomfortable, You may have to leave behind relationships that no longer support your purpose. You may have to change your routines, rethink your priorities, and confront beliefs that keep you small. Every ending you face is simply the preparation for a beginning you cannot yet imagine. Just as a seed must break apart before it grows into something new, you too must release parts of your life that have already served their purpose. Though it can feel like loss, it is often the necessary clearing that makes space for abundance to take root. A new season of growth is also a time to practice gratitude for how far you have already come. Even your setbacks have carried hidden gifts, lessons you could not have learned any other way. When you honor your journey, you can step forward without bitterness or regret. You begin to see that everything you have experienced has prepared you for this next chapter. Nothing has been wasted. Choosing to enter a new season is ultimately an act of hope. It is the decision to believe that your best days are not behind you. It is the willingness to expect goodness, favor, and purpose to unfold in ways you cannot predict. No matter how long you have felt stuck or how many times you have tried before, today can be the moment you decide to begin again. When you commit to growth, you align yourself with the unstoppable force of life itself, which is always renewing, always expanding, and always inviting you to become more than you once believed possible. It takes courage to step into the unknown. It takes faith to believe your future can be bigger than your history. But the moment you decide that you are no longer a prisoner of what was, you begin to live as the architect of what can be. Today, make the choice to release every excuse, every old label, every story that says you are stuck. Embrace your purpose. Let go of your past. Because the life you desire is waiting, and it cannot begin until you finally close the door on yesterday.